The galaxy had forgotten about humans. 3,000 years ago, the Galactic Concord looked at Earth and saw a world filled with violence. They saw creatures that killed each other over land, over beliefs, over things that other species could not understand. The Concord made a decision. They placed a barrier around the entire solar system. No ship could enter. No signal could leave. Earth was sealed away like a disease that needed to be contained. Over the centuries, humans became a story. Parents told their children about the dangerous creatures from the Forbidden Zone. Teachers use humanity as an example of what happens when a species cannot control its nature. Eventually, most aliens stopped believing humans had ever existed at all. They became myths, monsters from old tales, nothing more. But the Concord was wrong about one thing. Humans did not die. Commander Daniel Harris stood on the bridge of the Resolute and watched the stars through the main window. He was 42 years old, with gray hair at his temples and tired eyes that had seen too much. Behind him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. They were all human. They were all descendants of the survivors. When the barrier went up, a small group of human ships had been exploring the outer edges of the solar system. They were cut off from Earth, trapped outside the prison that was meant to hold their entire species. Those early survivors had a choice. They could give up and die, or they could fight to live. They chose to fight. 3,000 years later, humanity had built a civilization in the shadows. They hid in the dark spaces between stars where no one looked. They learned alien languages by listening to signals. They studied alien technology from wreckage they found drifting in space. They grew stronger, smarter, and more patient than anyone could imagine. Now there were 12 billion humans spread across hidden colonies. They had warships and weapons. They had doctors and scientists. They had everything they needed to survive. What they did not have was a home. Lieutenant Grace Palmer walked up to stand beside Commander Harris. She was 29, with short brown hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She was the best tactical officer in the fleet, and she was also one of the few people Harris trusted completely. "The scout ships have returned," she said. "The reports are not good." Harris nodded slowly. He already knew what the reports would say. The Vorak were winning. The Vorak were a hive-mind species that had appeared from beyond known space 30 years ago. They did not negotiate. They did not trade. They consumed. Every world they touched was stripped of resources and life. The Galactic Concord, with all its power and all its species, was losing badly. "How many worlds this time?" Harris asked. 7 in the last month, Grace replied. The Concord has lost almost 70% of their territory. At this rate, they will be gone within a decade. Harris felt something strange in his chest. It might have been satisfaction. The same aliens who had locked humanity away were now facing destruction. Part of him wanted to watch them burn. But another part, a deeper part, knew that was not who humans were supposed to be. "Admiral Stone wants to see you," Grace said. "She says it is urgent." Harris left the bridge and walked through the metal corridors of his ship. The Resolute was old but strong, like most things humans built. It had survived dozens of battles against pirates and raiders who wandered into human space. It would survive many more. Admiral Kira Stone was waiting in the command center. She was 58 years old, a woman with white hair and a face lined with wisdom. She had spent her entire life unifying the scattered human colonies into one people. Without her, humanity would still be hiding in separate groups, afraid of their own shadows. "Daniel," she said when he entered, "we have a visitor." Harris stopped. "A visitor? Here?" "His name is Torvik. He is a researcher from the Concord." Admiral Stone pressed a button, and a hologram appeared. It showed a thin alien with blue skin and large black eyes. He looked terrified and exhausted. "He found us," Stone continued. He was looking through ancient records and discovered mentions of the quarantine. He traveled to the Forbidden Zone and scanned for life signs. When he found our outer colonies, he made contact. "What does he want?" Harris asked. "He wants us to save them." The hologram began to play a message. Torvik's voice was shaky but clear. "I know what the Concord did to your people. I know you have every reason to hate us. But I am begging you. The Varak will destroy everything. Every world, every species, every child. We have tried everything we know. Nothing works. You are our last hope. The stories say humans were the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. If that is true, then please, help us. Help us, and I swear the Concord will make things right." The message ended. Harris stood in silence for a long moment. "He is telling the truth," Stone said. "Our intelligence confirms it. The Concord is desperate. They have tried every weapon, every strategy, every alliance. The Varak adapt to everything they throw at them. And you think we should help?" Harris asked. "After what they did to us?" Admiral Stone looked at him with calm eyes. "I think we should be better than they were. I think that is what makes us human." Harris turned away. He thought about the billions of humans who had lived and died in hiding. He thought about the children who grew up learning about a home world they would never see. He thought about all the pain and loss that the Concord had caused Dodd. Then he thought about the alien children who would die if the Varak won. He thought about the worlds that would burn and the lives that would end. He thought about what kind of people humanity wanted to be when they finally stepped out of the shadows. "Contact Torvik," Harris said finally. "Tell him we need to talk." Admiral Stone smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. "I knew you would make the right choice," she said. Dodd Harris was not sure it was the right choice. He was not sure of anything anymore. But he knew one thing for certain. The galaxy was about to remember that humans were not myths. They were very, very real. The capital world of Sci-Fi's Prime was the most beautiful place in the galaxy. Giant towers made of crystal rose into purple skies. Rivers of light flowed through the streets. 800 different species walked together in peace, or at least they used to. Now the streets were empty. The crystal towers were dark. Fear had spread across the Concord like a disease, and Sci-Fi's Prime was dying from the inside. High Chancellor Zethran stood in the Grand Chamber and watched the delegates argue. He was tall and thin, with a body covered in hard black shell and eyes that reflected light like mirrors. He had led the Concord for 60 years. He had never seen his people so afraid. "The Varak took 3 more systems yesterday," a delegate shouted. "What are we doing about it?" "We are doing everything we can," Zethran replied calmly. "Our fleets are fighting on every front." "Our fleets are dying on every front," another delegate said. "We need a new strategy." The doors at the far end of the chamber suddenly opened. Every head turned to look. A woman walked in, followed by 2 human guards in gray uniforms. She had dark skin and silver hair, and she moved with the confidence of someone who was not afraid of anything. Her name was Myra Voss, and she had been chosen by Admiral Stone to speak for humanity. The chamber went silent. Delegates stared with wide eyes. Some stepped backward in fear. Others leaned forward with curiosity. Most simply could not believe what they were seeing. "Impossible," Zethran whispered. "The humans are dead. They have been dead for thousands of years." Myra Voss stopped in the center of the chamber and looked around at the assembled aliens. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment. Every human had. "We are not dead," she said. Her voice was clear and strong. "We have been watching you. We have been waiting. And now we are here to help." The chamber exploded into chaos. Delegates shouted questions and accusations. Some demanded that the humans be arrested. Others called for their ships to be destroyed. Zethran raised his hand for silence, and slowly the noise died down. "How is this possible?" he asked. "The quarantine barrier has been active for 3,000 years. Some of our ships were outside the barrier when it activated," Mira explained. "We survived. We built colonies in the spaces between your stars. We grew strong in the darkness you forced us into. And now you want revenge," a delegate said. "You want to destroy us while we are weak." Mira shook her head. "If we wanted revenge, we could have taken it 1,000 years ago. We could have waited until the Varak finished you and then claimed your empty worlds. But that is not who we are. We are here because we choose to help." General Victor Cole stood near the entrance, watching the reactions of the alien delegates. He was 51 years old, a soldier who had spent his life preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Now that war was here, and it was bigger than anything he had imagined. "You expect us to trust you?" Zethran asked. "Your species was quarantined because you were too dangerous. Your history is filled with violence and war." "Yes," Myra agreed. "We were violent. We fought each other for thousands of years. But we also learned from our mistakes. We learned that the only way to survive is to work together. That is a lesson your Concord seems to have forgotten." A young alien delegate named Cirrus watched from the back of the chamber. She was small and quiet, with pale green skin and 4 arms. Unlike the older delegates, she did not feel fear when she looked at the humans. She felt hope. "The Varak are different from any enemy we have faced," Myra continued. "They adapt to every weapon you use against them. They learn from every battle. Your strategies fail because the Varak have seen them all before, but they have never seen humans fight. They have never faced a species that thinks the way we think." "And how do you think?" Zethran asked. Myra smiled. "We think like survivors. We think like people who have been pushed into corners and forced to claw our way out. We do not give up. We do not surrender. And we do not fight fair." The chamber was silent. Delegates looked at each other, uncertain what to do. Finally, Zethran spoke. "We will vote," he said. "All delegates in favor of accepting human assistance, raise your signals." Cirrus immediately raised her signal. A few others joined her, but most of the chamber remained still. The fear of humans was older than the fear of the Varak. Old fears were hard to overcome. "The motion fails," Zethran announced. "The Concord thanks you for your offer, but we must decline. Please return to your hidden colonies and leave us to fight our own battles." Myra looked at the delegates with sad eyes. "You are making a mistake," she said. "The Varak will not stop. They will come for every world, including yours. When that happens, remember that we offered to help." She turned and walked out of the chamber. General Cole and the guards followed her. Later that night, Cirrus found a way to contact the human ship. She transmitted everything she knew about Varak movements, their weaknesses, their patterns. She did not know if it would help, but she had to try. 3 days later, the Varak attacked 3 core worlds at the same time. The Concord fleets rushed to defend them, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. Millions of aliens screamed for help as Varak ships filled their skies. On the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Harris received the distress signals. He looked at Admiral Stone. "They rejected us," he said. "They told us to leave." "Yes," Stone replied. "But those people dying down there did not make that choice. They are innocent, and we have the power to save them." Harris closed his eyes for a moment. Then he opened them and gave the order. "All ships," he said into the fleet communicator, "move to intercept. We are going to war." The human fleet emerged from the shadows and flew toward the battle. The galaxy was about to learn that myths could fight back. The Gathari system was burning. 3 beautiful worlds circled a golden sun. They were home to peaceful people who had never known war. They had artists and musicians and philosophers. They had families and children and dreams for the future. Now, Varak bioships filled their skies like a swarm of hungry insects. And all those dreams were turning to ash. Captain Noah Bennett sat in the command chair of the human battleship Defiance and watched the battle unfold on his screens. He was 34 years old, with a calm face that hid a heart that burned with purpose. Around him, his crew worked with quiet focus. They had trained their entire lives for this moment. "Enemy count?" he asked. 300 Varak vessels, his tactical officer replied. "The Concorde defense fleet has been reduced to 40 ships. They are falling back." Noah nodded. The Concorde ships were doing their best, but the Varak were too many and too fast. Every time an alien ship destroyed one Varak vessel, 3 more took its place. It was like fighting the ocean. "All human ships, this is Captain Bennett," Noah said into the fleet channel. "We are going in. Attack pattern Omega. Hit them hard and do not stop until they break." 60 human warships charged into the battle. They were smaller than the Concorde vessels, but they were faster and more deadly. Human engineers had spent centuries studying Varak weaknesses. Human tacticians had developed strategies that no alien had ever imagined. Now it was time to see if their work would pay off. The first Varak ship exploded as 3 human vessels hit it from different angles at the same time. Then another fell. Then another. The Varak tried to adapt, but the humans changed tactics faster than they could react. Every time the enemy thought they understood the pattern, the humans did something new. On the largest Cathari world, Sergeant Lisa Grant led her Marines through burning streets. She was 38 years old, a woman who had grown up on a mining colony at the edge of human space. She knew what it was like to be forgotten. She knew what it was like to fight for survival. And she knew that the people of this world needed her help. "Keep moving," she ordered her squad. "The evacuation point is 2 blocks ahead." Alien civilians ran past them, their faces filled with terror. Some were carrying children. Some were carrying old ones who could not walk. All of them were crying. A young Cathari girl stood in the middle of the street, frozen with fear. She could not have been more than 5 years old. Her family was nowhere in sight. Lisa ran to her and knelt down. "Hey," she said softly. "It is okay. I am going to get you somewhere safe." The girl looked at her with wide eyes. She had probably never seen a human before. To her, Lisa must have looked like a monster from a story. But something in Lisa's voice made her trust this strange creature. Lisa picked up the girl and ran. Her squad covered her, firing at Varak ground troops that were closing in. One Marine fell, then another. But they did not stop. They could not stop. Too many lives depended on them. In space, the battle was turning. Captain Bennett had led his ship directly into the heart of the Varak formation. It was a crazy move, something no rational commander would do. But humans had learned long ago that sometimes crazy was the only way to win. The Defiance took heavy damage, but it kept fighting. Its weapons tore through Varak ships while its shields held against their attacks. Other human vessels followed Bennett's lead, pushing deeper into the enemy lines. Then something amazing happened. The Varak began to retreat. For 30 years, no one had ever seen the Varak run from a fight. They did not know fear. They did not understand defeat. But they were running now. The human assault had broken something inside their hive mind. They did not know how to fight an enemy that did not follow any rules they understood. "All ships pursue," Bennett ordered. "Do not let them regroup." The human fleet chased the Varak out of the system. Behind them, the surviving Concorde ships floated in stunned silence. They had just watched the impossible happen on the ground. Lisa and her squad reached the evacuation zone with hundreds of civilians. Medical teams rushed to help the wounded. Transport ships lifted off, carrying survivors to safety. The young Cathari girl clung to Lisa's hand and refused to let go. "What is your name?" Lisa asked her. "Zin," the girl whispered. "That is a beautiful name, Zin. We are going to find your family, okay?" "I promise." Zin nodded. For the first time since the attack began, there was hope in her eyes. The battle was over. The Varak had lost 200 ships. Humanity had lost 12. The 3 Cathari worlds were damaged but alive. Millions of people who would have died were instead looking up at the sky and wondering who had saved them. Videos of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. Aliens watched in shock as human ships dove into enemy formations. They watched human soldiers carrying wounded civilians to safety. They watched a species that had been called monsters show more compassion than anyone had expected. High Chancellor Zethron sat in his chamber and watched the same videos again and again. He had been so certain that humans were dangerous animals. He had been so sure that rejecting their help was the right choice. Now he was watching those dangerous animals save lives while his own fleets ran away. "Contact Admiral Stone," he said quietly to his assistant. "Tell her I would like to speak with her. Tell her I was wrong." On the bridge of the Resolute, Commander Harris received the message. He looked at Admiral Stone, who was smiling. "It seems we have their attention," she said. "It seems we do," Harris agreed. "What happens now? Now we show them what humans can really do. Now we win this war together. The myth species have become real, and they were just getting started." 6 months had passed since the Battle of Fallen Stars. Everything had changed. Human ships now flew alongside Concord vessels in every sector. Human soldiers trained alien troops in tactics they had never imagined. Human scientists worked with alien researchers to develop new weapons. For the first time in 3,000 years, humanity was part of the galaxy again. Admiral Kira Stone stood in a conference room on Seraphis Prime and faced High Chancellor Zethron. They had met many times now, and each meeting had been tense. The Concord wanted humans to fight their war, but they did not want to treat them as equals. Stone was not going to accept that. "We have lost 20 ships in the last month," Zethron said. "Our people are dying for your war. The least you could do is follow our commands." "Your commands got your fleets destroyed for 30 years, Stone replied calmly. "Our tactics have won every battle since we joined. If you want us to keep fighting, you will respect our judgment." Zethron's eyes flickered with anger, but he said nothing. He knew she was right. He hated that she was right. On the other side of the galaxy, Dr. Samuel Perry was having a breakthrough. He was 45 years old, a biologist who had spent his entire career studying alien life. Now he was studying the most dangerous alien life anyone had ever encountered. The Varak prisoner floated in a containment tank, connected to machines that monitored every part of its body. It was not an individual creature. It was a piece of a larger mind, a single cell in a brain that stretched across thousands of ships. "I have been wrong about them," Samuel said to his assistant. "We all have. What do you mean?" "The Varak are not evil. They are not invaders by choice." Samuel pointed to his data screens. "Look at these readings. Their biology shows signs of extreme stress, like they have been running from something for a very long time. They consume worlds because they are desperate. Something drove them from their home, and they are terrified of it. What could scare the Varak?" Samuel shook his head. "I do not know yet, but I think they are not our real enemy." They are refugees, just like we were. The real threat is still coming." Commander Helen Drake did not have time to think about scientific discoveries. She was too busy trying to keep the alliance from falling apart. Helen was 40 years old, a diplomat who had spent her life learning how to talk to people who did not want to listen. Now she was living on a space station near the front lines, coordinating between human and alien forces. It was the hardest job she had ever had. She was also trying to hold her family together. Her husband and 2 children had moved to a colony called New Geneva, far from the war. She talked to them every night through video calls, watching her kids grow up one screen at a time. "Mom, when are you coming home?" her daughter asked during their last call. "Soon, baby," Helen said. "As soon as this war is over." She did not know if that was true. She hoped it was. 3 weeks later, the Varak changed their strategy. They stopped attacking Concord worlds and started attacking human colonies instead. They had finally realized that the humans were the real threat. New Geneva was one of the first targets. Helen received the news during a meeting. A Varak fleet had appeared in the New Geneva system without warning. They had destroyed the defense station in minutes. Now they were heading for the colony where her family lived. She ran to the communications center and tried to contact her husband. The signal connected for just a moment. She saw his face, saw the fear in his eyes. "Helen, they are coming. I love you." The signal went dead. Helen screamed, but no one could hear her pain. Commander Harris led the rescue fleet to New Geneva, but they arrived too late. The colony was burning. The Varak had killed over 50,000 people before withdrawing. Among the dead were Helen Drake's husband and children. Harris found Helen standing in the ruins of what had been a school. She was not crying. She was not moving. She was just standing there, staring at nothing. "I am sorry," he said. "I am so sorry." "They want us to break," Helen whispered. "They want us to give up. Will you?" Helen turned to look at him. There was something new in her eyes. Not just grief. Something harder. "No," she said. "I will not give them that satisfaction. My family died believing we were fighting for something good. I am going to make sure they were right." Across the galaxy, other human colonies received the same message. The Varak were hunting them now. The war had become personal. Admiral Stone called a meeting of all human commanders. Some wanted revenge. Some wanted to retreat. Some wanted to find the Varak home world and burn it to ashes. "We will do none of those things," Stone said firmly. "We will not become monsters to fight monsters. We will stay focused. We will protect our people. And we will find a way to end this war without destroying ourselves." "How?" someone asked. "Dr. Perry believes the Varak are running from something. If we can find out what, maybe we can understand them. Maybe we can find peace. Peace with the creatures that killed 50,000 of our people?" "Peace is always harder than war," Stone replied. "That is what makes it worth fighting for." That night, Samuel Perry decoded a Varak transmission that changed everything. It was a distress signal, old and faint, repeating over and over. "They are coming. The silence is coming. We cannot stop them. We can only run." Samuel felt cold fear spread through his body. The Varak were not the enemy. They were the warning. Something much worse was on its way. The silence arrived on a Tuesday. It came from the darkness between galaxies, a wave of black ships that swallowed light itself. Sensors could not track them. Weapons could not touch them. They moved through space like ghosts, and everywhere they went, life ended. Commander Daniel Harris stood on the bridge of the Resolute and watched the readings come in. 3 Concord worlds had gone quiet in the last hour. Not destroyed, just silent. Every living thing on those planets had simply stopped existing. "What are they?" Grace Palmer asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ancient machines," Harris replied. "Dr. Perry believes they are millions of years old. They were created by a species that died long ago, programmed to eliminate all organic life. The Varak have been running from them for centuries. And now they are here, Yes, now they are here. The Varak Overmind had sent a message to Admiral Stone 2 days ago. It was the first time the hive mind had ever communicated with anyone. The message was simple. We were wrong to attack you. We were afraid, and fear made us cruel. Now the true enemy has come. If we do not stand together, we will all die apart. Admiral Stone accepted the offer. The Concord screamed in protest. Aliens who had lost family to Varak attacks demanded justice. But Stone held firm. Justice means nothing if we are all dead, she said. We can settle our differences after we survive. Now the largest fleet in galactic history was gathering at the edge of known space. Human ships flew beside Concord vessels. Varak bioships floated alongside both. 3 civilizations that had been enemies were now allies. Against something none of them could defeat alone, Captain Noah Bennett guided the Defiance into formation. His ship still carried scars from dozens of battles, but it was still flying. It would fly until the end. All ships report ready, his tactical officer said. Good. Noah looked out at the fleet around him. There were thousands of vessels, more than he had ever seen in one place. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. Dr. Samuel Perry had developed a weapon. It was a bomb that could disrupt the energy that powered the silence machines. But it had to be delivered directly into the heart of their formation, into the central ship that controlled all the others. The problem was simple. Whoever delivered the bomb would not come back. Commander Harris had volunteered immediately. So had Captain Bennett. So had hundreds of others. In the end, Admiral Stone chose 50 ships crewed entirely by volunteers. They called themselves the Final Dawn. Harris was not among them. Stone had refused his request. You are needed here, she told him. Someone has to lead what comes after. What if there is no after? Then make sure there is. The battle began at sunrise, though there was no sun to rise. The silence came forward like a dark tide. Countless black ships moving in perfect formation. The Allied fleet met them head-on. It was chaos. Energy weapons flashed across the void. Ships exploded into clouds of fire and metal. The silence machines were hard to hit and harder to destroy, but they could be stopped. It just took everything the fleet had. Grace Palmer worked her tactical station with desperate focus. She directed fire from a dozen ships at once, finding weak points in the enemy formation and exploiting them. She had never worked so hard in her life. The Final Dawn is moving into position, she reported. They need cover. All ships, protect those volunteers, Harris ordered. Whatever it takes. The 50 ships of the Final Dawn pushed forward through the battle. Silence machines turned to stop them, but Allied vessels threw themselves in the way. Varak bioships rammed enemy ships to clear a path. Concord cruisers sacrificed themselves to buy seconds of time. One by one, the Final Dawn ships fell. 40, 30, 20, 10. Only one ship reached the center of the silence formation. Its commander was a young woman named Rachel Bennett, Noah's youngest sister. She had joined the Final Dawn without telling him. Rachel, no. Noah screamed into his communicator. Turn back, please. Sorry, big brother. Rachel's voice came back, calm and steady. Some things are worth dying for. Take care of Mom and Dad for me. Tell them I love them. Her ship dove into the heart of the silence core and detonated the weapon. The explosion tore through the enemy formation like fire through paper. Machine after machine went dark and fell silent. The silence was defeated, but the price was 50 ships and everyone aboard them. Noah Bennett knelt on the bridge of the Defiance and wept for his sister. Around him, his crew wept with him. The war was over. The galaxy had survived. In the months that followed, everything changed again. The Concord formally welcomed humanity as full members of the galactic community. The quarantine was officially ended. Human ships could finally travel to Earth and see the home world their ancestors had left behind. Navarrek were given territory at the edge of the galaxy to rebuild their civilization. They would be watched, but they would be given a chance to prove they could live in peace. Admiral Stone insisted on it. "We were once seen as monsters too," she said. "Everyone deserves a chance to become something better." Monuments were built on every world to honor those who had fallen. The names of the final dawn were carved in stone and crystal and light. They would never be forgotten. Zyn, the Cathari girl that Sergeant Grant had saved, grew up to become an ambassador. She dedicated her life to ensuring that no species would ever be forgotten or cast aside again. She remembered the human soldier who had carried her to safety, and she tried to live by that example. Commander Daniel Harris stood on the observation deck of a new ship, looking out at the stars. The galaxy stretched before him, full of mysteries and possibilities. Behind him, human and alien crew members worked together like they had always been friends. Grace Palmer walked up to stand beside him, just like she always did. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "I am thinking about myths," he said. "I am thinking about how the galaxy believed we were just stories, just legends from the past. And now?" Harris smiled. "Now they know the truth. Humans were never myths. We were just waiting for the right moment to rise." He looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there, new challenges waited. New enemies. New friends. New stories to be written. But whatever came next, humanity would face it together. They had risen from the shadows. They had claimed their victory. And they were just getting started. The myth was over. The legend was beginning.